He sat across from me in the courtroom, legs crossed, a smug smile tugging at his lips. Dressed in a sharp suit he could barely afford, leaning close to the woman beside him, 10 years younger, maybe more. She looked at me with pity. He looked at me like I was already crushed. He thought he'd won. The judge flipped through the thick stack of papers. His lawyer whispered something to him. He chuckled, that laugh, the same one he used when I once told him I wanted to open my own business. The same laugh he gave me when I said I wanted to go back to school. That sound followed me home for years. He had told everyone I had nothing, said I'd be begging for scraps by the end of the divorce. He painted me as lazy, dependent, fragile. I let him. I watched him build the story. I stayed quiet, until now. The judge cleared his throat and read a number. A long one. His name wasn't attached to it. Mine was. A silence followed, the kind that weighs heavy. He shifted in his seat. I didn't look at him. I didn't need to. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and please do not forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved ones. Let me take you back to how this all started. Years ago, I thought I was marrying someone who believed in me. He said he did. He made promises, said we were building a future together, but the future he had in mind was only for himself. Once I quit my job, and he had control of everything, money, home, time, he began to change. He said I didn't need to work, that he'd handle it all. He convinced me it was love, but it wasn't love. It was control, and I let it happen at first, because I wanted peace, because I was scared. But fear only lasts so long, so I started making plans. Quiet ones, late nights, secret emails, a few dollars here and there. I learned things he never thought I could. I built something while he wasn't looking. And now, here we are. We met in college. He stood out from the start. Confident, smart, always saying the right things. He had a way of making people feel small and lucky at the same time. When he looked at me, it felt like I was the only one in the room. He called me driven, told me I had fire in me. He listened when I talked about my goals. I wanted to start my own design firm back then. I had saved up, had a plan, even a small client list starting to build. He said he believed in me, but then he told me his idea was bigger. He had this dream, a tech startup, said it could change our future. He asked me to join him, not as a partner, but in life. He said, "You don't have to carry everything. Let me take care of us." At first, it sounded sweet. He said I'd still have time for my goals later. Just not now. Let's build one dream at a time, he said, and I let go of mine. After we got married, things moved fast. He worked long hours. I took care of everything else. I didn't mind in the beginning. It felt like we were a team. But slowly, he started making all the decisions. When I offered to help with finances, he brushed it off. "Why stress yourself?" he said. "I've got it covered." He took over the bills, the banking, even taxes. He said it was easier that way, that I didn't need to worry. When I asked for access, he'd say, "It's all the same account, babe," or, "You don't trust me?" I didn't want to fight, so I stopped asking. Then came the comments, little things, said with a smile. "Must be nice to stay in pajamas all day." Or, "What would you do without me?" He'd say he was joking, but it chipped away at me, bit by bit. I started to feel small. He controlled how much I had to spend. He gave me a card but kept the limit low. I had to ask before making bigger purchases, even for the house. He called it budgeting. I called it something else, quietly, in my head. Still, I didn't speak up. I told myself it was temporary, that I was being supportive, that this was part of being married. But deep down, I started to feel like I was disappearing. That was the setup. That's how it began. He built his world, and I handed him the tools. It started slowly, like a shift in the air I couldn't explain. He used to come home and talk to me about everything, his work, his plans, the people he met. Then he stopped. He came home later, left earlier, always on his phone, always with some new urgent thing that couldn't wait. He began watching what I did with money. If I ordered groceries a day early or bought something small online, he'd ask about it. Not directly, but in this tone, half joking, half serious. "You really needed that?" Or, "I guess the card works a little too well." At first I thought I was imagining it, but it kept happening. If I asked for a little extra, he'd say, "Again?" Or remind me of some old purchase from weeks ago. I started thinking twice before buying anything, even small things. He stopped leaving bills on the kitchen counter like he used to. No envelopes, no emails left open. I checked once when he was in the shower. Everything was gone, like the house ran itself without any paper trail. Then came the comments. "You must be bored all day," or, "Do Do you even remember how a real job works? He'd smile when he said it, but it didn't feel like a joke. He stopped noticing when I cooked or cleaned or stayed up late folding laundry. It didn't matter anymore. I could have done everything or nothing, and his reaction would have been the same. He took more trips, said they were for meetings, deals, expansion, but the trips got longer and stranger. Once he flew to another state for 2 days and came back with nothing. No stories, no receipts, not even a tired face. I asked how it went. He shrugged. Then I found the receipt. It was tucked between magazines in the car, an expensive necklace, one I'd never seen, the kind of gift he used to give me before we got married. I waited until dinner and brought it up gently. He looked at me and laughed. Actually, laughed. Oh, that? It was for a client. A bonus gift. You wouldn't understand how deals work. I stared at him, not sure if I was angry or just stunned. He poured himself wine like nothing had happened. He didn't offer more, didn't explain. I didn't push. I just nodded. Something changed in me that night, not because of the necklace, but because of how easy it was for him to lie. I didn't cry after that night. I didn't argue. I didn't ask any more questions. Instead, I went quiet. Not the kind of quiet that gives up, but the kind that watches and listens, the kind that waits. I started reading during the hours he was gone. Finance blogs, beginner guides, anything I could find online. I watched videos with headphones on while I folded laundry. I took notes, paused, rewound. At first, I barely understood a thing, but I kept going. I created a new email address, a new username. I joined forums where no one knew who I was. I didn't ask dumb questions. I just read. I learned about stocks, crypto, saving strategies, and passive income. It didn't feel like hope. It felt like survival. On my birthday, he gave me a generic gift card. He barely looked up from his phone when I opened it. I smiled and said, "Thank you." That card became my seed money. I also gathered small amounts of cash he left lying around, change from his pockets, tips he forgot to collect from the counter. It wasn't stealing. He never noticed it anyway. I opened an account in my maiden name. I used a prepaid card to fund it. I didn't touch a cent of what he earned or gave me. I wanted what I built to be mine alone. At first, the numbers were small. Tiny gains, a few dollars here and there. But with time, it grew. I reinvested everything. Every dollar went back in. It became a quiet routine. He thought I was watching soap opera. I was watching the markets. He didn't notice. He had other things on his mind. One night, I saw a text pop up on his phone while he was in the shower. It was just a name I didn't recognize, followed by a heart. He had saved it under something ordinary. I didn't react. I just memorized it and moved on. He got sloppy, left receipts in odd places, changed his passwords, but reused old ones. I didn't dig too deep. I didn't need to. I already knew what kind of man I was dealing with. And while he built his lies, I built something else, something real, something that couldn't be taken from me. I never told anyone, not a friend, not a family member, just me, and the quiet screen in front of me every night. I had no plan at first, just a need to feel like I existed outside of him. But soon, what started as a small act of rebellion turned into something much bigger. I began paying closer attention to the little things, his habits, his words, where he left his phone. I stopped asking questions, but I started watching everything. When he talked on the phone in the next room, I made sure to remember names and dates. When he tossed papers on the table, I quietly took pictures before he picked them back up. He once forgot his wallet on the counter. Inside were several cards I'd never seen before, different banks, different names. I wrote down the details, then put everything back exactly as it was. He never noticed. I set up a small camera, hidden in the corner of the office. Nothing fancy, just enough to capture what he typed and said when he thought he was alone. I placed an old phone under the couch, recording whenever he made calls in the living room. I synced it to my laptop and checked the audio late at night. It wasn't long before the pieces started coming together. I found statements from bank accounts I didn't know existed. The money flowing in didn't match anything he claimed to earn. One name kept popping up, a company he had mentioned a few times in passing, but not in detail. I looked it up and found out it was his own, registered under a different email, hidden from every shared document we had. The more I searched, the darker it got. He was moving money, slowly but regularly, into accounts with no paper trail. Money meant for his business, investor money. He was draining it, bit by bit. Then I found an email he forgot to delete. It was a draft, not even sent yet, addressed to a lawyer. He was asking how to legally prove a spouse was mentally unfit. The wording was careful, but the meaning was clear. He was preparing to take everything and he planned to make me look like I'd lost control. I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. Instead, I started collecting everything I could. Copies of receipts, screenshots of emails, saved voice recordings. I printed and stored them in a folder under a false name. I backed up every file twice. I learned how to organize legal evidence. I read articles about divorce law late at night when he thought I was asleep. I told no one, not a friend, not a relative. I didn't want advice. I didn't want pity. I wanted silence, calm. I needed him to keep believing I was weak, unaware, broken. He thought he was playing a long game. He didn't know I was already playing mine. I knew I needed help to protect what I had built. Quietly, I reached out to a financial advisor. I used a fake name and a private phone. We never met in person. Everything happened over calls and encrypted messages. I asked questions carefully, explained only what I had to. The more I learned, the stronger I felt. He helped me create a trust. Everything I earned from my side investments went into it. I changed the ownership on the accounts I had opened. The money was no longer in my name, not directly. I wasn't hiding it. I was shielding it. I also updated my will. He didn't know I even had one. I made sure every part of it was clear, legal, and airtight. I named no family members, no friends, only the trust, only the companies I quietly controlled. With some of the gains from my investments, I started buying property, small apartments in quiet areas. Not luxury, not flashy, just stable, steady value. I used a shell company to handle the purchases. No one would trace them back to me unless they knew exactly where to look. He never did. I knew what was coming. I had seen the signs. The way he stayed out longer, the way he left his phone face down, the way he avoided eye contact when he talked. Then one day, he sat me down and told me we needed to talk like adults. He said he didn't love me anymore, that things had changed, that I seemed lost. He said I should agree to a peaceful divorce, let him handle things and move on. He sounded kind, almost gentle, like he was doing me a favor. I looked at him and said nothing. I let my hands shake. I let my eyes water. I whispered, "I don't know what I'll do without you." And he believed it. From that moment, he treated me like I was broken. Around others, he played the hero. He told mutual friends I wasn't handling it well, that I had lost control, that he was doing what was best for both of us. Some of them looked at me with pity. Some didn't speak to me at all. I didn't correct them. I stayed silent, played my part, and let him enjoy the spotlight. He thought he was ahead, thought I was falling apart. But I had already built a wall he couldn't see, a wall he'd never climb. The courtroom was cold and still. I sat on one side, he on the other. His suit looked expensive. His smile was steady. He glanced at me like I was something small and sad. His new partner sat behind him, arms crossed, eyes full of judgment. They thought this was the final step, that soon it would all be his. His lawyer stood up first, polished, loud, sure of himself. He called my husband a provider, a man who had carried the marriage while I, as he put it, chose not to contribute. He painted me as lazy, dependent, fragile, a woman who lived off her husband's success and now wanted more than she deserved. They asked the court for alimony, spousal support, half of all assets, even personal items. He leaned back in his chair, confident. I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. My lawyer said nothing at first. He didn't argue or interrupt. He just waited, calm and steady. I kept my face still. I didn't look sad. I didn't look angry. Just blank, like I hadn't heard a word. That's what they expected. That's what I gave them. Then the judge turned to me, asked if I had anything to say. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder, thick, heavy, filled with documents. I passed it to my lawyer. He stood and handed it to the judge. No speech, no explanation, just quiet confidence. The judge began flipping through the pages. Bank statements, transfer record, property deeds, dates, signatures, audio transcripts. It was all there, the things I'd been collecting for months, stacked and organized with care. The judge's eyes moved slowly. The room stayed silent. My husband's lawyer leaned over, trying to see. My husband sat up straighter, his smile slipping. For the first time, he looked unsure. Still, I said nothing. My hands stayed in my lap. My breathing stayed calm. He didn't know yet what the judge was about to read out loud. He didn't know that all the lies he had built, the image he created, were about to fall apart. He thought the story was his to control, but it wasn't. Not anymore. The judge kept reading, page after page, document after document. My lawyer didn't speak unless asked. He had done all the work already. Everything was clear, exact, and carefully organized. I sat quietly, hands still, eyes on the desk. Then the judge paused, cleared his throat, and looked up. He read the number out loud. My total worth. Savings, investments, properties, almost 8 figures. The room shifted. I felt it. A silence that held its breath. My ex's head snapped toward me. His mouth opened, but no words came. He looked at his lawyer, confused, almost scared. His lawyer flipped through his own folder, then glanced at me, frowning. They hadn't seen it coming. My ex finally spoke, loud, angry. This isn't possible. She never worked. She didn't have access. The judge raised a hand. You'll have a chance to respond when it's your turn. For now, please stay silent. He sat back, face red, jaw tight. The younger woman behind him looked away, like she wanted to disappear. The judge continued. He pointed to the pages that outlined the trust, the shell company, the offshore accounts. He explained how everything I had was separate, legal, and earned without touching a dollar from my husband. He noted that the money trail had been clean and the strategy well executed. Then came the final part, the prenup. It was signed years ago, pushed by him, written in his favor. It included a section about infidelity. At the time, I hadn't argued. He said it was standard, a formality. I signed it without thinking twice, but now it worked against him. The judge read the clause. If infidelity was proven, he would forfeit any claim to shared assets or support. My lawyer had already submitted proof, texts, receipts, call logs. There was no way around it. The judge looked up again. In accordance with this agreement, and due to the evidence presented, the court finds the respondent entitled to nothing from the petitioner's estate or finances. He tried to speak again, but this time, his lawyer placed a hand on his arm and shook his head. The courtroom was quiet. I didn't smile. I didn't move. I simply sat there, watching the same man who once laughed in my face now struggle to understand how he had lost everything. He thought he had written the rules. He never thought I'd learn how to play. He didn't follow me out of the courtroom. He couldn't. By the time the judge gave his final words, his entire expression had changed. Gone was the smile, the confidence. The man who once thought he controlled every part of my life. What sat in front of me now was someone who looked smaller than I had ever seen him. As soon as the session ended, his girlfriend stood up, grabbed her purse, and left without saying a word. She didn't look at him. She didn't wait. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor, and she didn't stop until she was gone. People had started whispering. A few reporters had shown up, probably tipped off by someone hoping for drama. They circled outside the building, cameras ready, microphones in hand. I stayed calm. I walked past them quietly, head high. No need to say anything. Let them guess. Let them talk. Behind me, I heard shouting. Not from the crowd, from him. He tried to call out, tried to say I had tricked him, that I'd planned this to ruin him, but no one listened. His lawyer pulled him aside, trying to calm him down. It didn't help. He waved his hands, raised his voice, and made everything worse. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. His startup had already been shaky. I had seen enough documents to know the numbers didn't match the promises. Now, with everything exposed in court, the hidden accounts, the misused funds, people began to pull away. Investors who once praised him went silent. Phone calls stopped. Emails weren't answered. An article appeared a few days later, questioning where the money had gone. Another followed, naming him directly. I didn't send them. I didn't need to. The truth always has a way of finding light. While he dealt with the pieces falling around him, I moved forward. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I just walked away. I had signed the final documents. The case was closed. I had the keys to a new apartment in my pocket, a space that was mine. No shared closet, no hidden cameras, no silence filled with fear, just mine. The furniture wasn't fancy. The kitchen was small, but every inch of it felt like freedom. I unpacked slowly. No rush. One box at a time. I played music while I worked, opened the windows, let the light in. It was quiet, but not empty. Not anymore. That part of my life was finished. He could yell. He could blame. He could lose everything he built on lies. That wasn't mine to carry anymore. I didn't need revenge. I had something better. A new beginning he never saw coming. 1 year later, my life looked nothing like the one I left behind. I had built something real, something mine. Not just money, not just numbers in an account. I had knowledge, control, and a kind of peace I never knew I could have. I started speaking to women who were where I once was. Some were quiet, scared, unsure of their own strength. I saw myself in their faces. I told them what I had learned, showed them how to start small, how to protect themselves, how to grow without needing anyone's permission. They listened. They asked questions. Some cried. Some didn't speak at first, but they all came back. I wasn't famous, but word spread. A few blogs shared my story. My inbox filled with strangers asking for help, for guidance, for a place to begin. I answered everyone. I didn't charge them, not yet. It wasn't about money, not for me. Still, money came. My investments kept growing. My real estate brought in steady income. I never went back to a 9 to 5. I didn't need to. I worked from my laptop, on my terms, in my time. That summer, I bought a house in Savannah, Georgia. White porch, wide windows, big trees, paid in full. No loans, no shared deed, just my name on the papers. The day I signed, I stood on the front steps, barefoot, coffee in hand, and breathed. I had made it, and I made it alone. A few weeks later, I had to fly to Dallas for a conference. My flight was delayed, and I needed a rental car. I walked to the counter, stood in line, scrolling through my phone, not really paying attention. Then I looked up. There he was, behind the desk, wearing a cheap uniform shirt with a wrinkled name tag that said, Mark. His hair was shorter, his smile gone. He looked up, then down again, like he didn't see me. But he did. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. He asked if I had a reservation. I gave my name, first and last. Slowly, he froze for half a second, then nodded. While he typed, I looked around. The lobby smelled like cheap carpet and plastic coffee. He didn't meet my eyes. I didn't force it. When the keys were in my hand, I smiled. Small, polite, just enough. Take care, Mark. And I walked out. No anger, no gloating, just calm. He thought he broke me. Turns out he just built my empire. Was Mark's downfall deserved? Or do you think he got off easy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories like this.